progress. We're good. Alrighty. So seems like we have some initial audience already in the room. So let's just kick it off. Again, I thank everyone for being here and coming to learn about our update. Maybe just a quick sort of high-level summary. The past 2 weeks, mostly we have been finalizing and polishing things and like fixing some of the bugs we found internally. We also completed the rotation of the withdrawal credentials for the pool validators, which is a significant milestone actually. Yeah, personally on the commercial side, myself and some other team members have been thinking and a few other things that we would like to propose to community in due time. We'll share some kind of sneak peeks into our thinking, but yeah, none of this stuff will be final until the DAO ratifies it. So always, if you have thoughts, if you have comments, let's discuss those. This is the space to do this. And of course, later on the forum. I'll probably start with just the rotation of withdrawal credentials because it's kind of like one of the bigger things that happened. So as you may remember, when we launched back in February 2021, we had a multi-sig, essentially that we called the Horcrux, which was a split withdrawal key that was comprised of 7 different shards that were given to prominent figures in the Ethereum community. And so we relied on this sharding solution to launch a non-custodial offering back in the day. And then as soon as creating validators with an ETH1 withdrawal address was possible, which was around April 2021, we switched away from that solution. But for the initial set of validators we launched, the Horcrux was still in place until, early this week, actually. So we have now gathered all the shards together and executed a withdrawal rotation, with the withdrawal credentials rotation. So the Horcrux is no more. What this means is that there's no, let's say, human element any longer to any of the StakeWise sort of validators, or other, the control of funds and nodes. Would have been difficult to execute anything malicious before, but now, since the other contracts have been running seemingly well, now everything is running with contracts, so we can be sort of safe and sound in the knowledge that everything is controlled by just ETH1 withdrawal credentials. So this is a big milestone that we kind of shed the skin of the former StakeWise and move forward. Another big update is that the smart contracts for V3 have, really been completed and are being tested. Dimitri has been running with this effort as his core duty as a smart contract engineer in our team, and I hear that he's basically stopped iterating on various components and is now just heads down testing. As far as I'm aware, this process is also actually nearly complete, and so our attention, as we are launching the testnet, will be focused on adding some custom functionality that some of the partners that want to use StakeWise V3 have requested. We also see that in the landscape where regulatory questions occasionally come to the forefront, we need to perhaps add some custom solutions to the different types of vaults. And so since this is, how to put this, not a significant lift, we will be doing that as we roll out the testnet. And so this development will be happening in the background. There is less of time sensitivity to develop these. So knowing that the core StakeWise V3 functionality is now completed, we're ready to book the audits. I am actually looking forward to signing the engagement or two engagements today. So once they are signed, we will announce some hard dates to give you more clarity about what the next steps are. But yeah, just anecdotally, at least on the core functionality side, we are ready to go to audit for everything that has been kind of teased so far. In terms of the public testnet readiness, we have been sort of working through certain, not to call them issues, but basically optimizations for backend and front-end components, actually mostly backend stuff. This concerns oracles and making sure that running an oracle and running an operator surface is not too sort of gas consuming and is kind of works like a clock. Also comes down to making sure we don't use too many external dependencies, and when we do use them, we use secure ones. So, for example, we used an external dependency that turned out to have some minor vulnerability, and this kind of spooked some of the, well, not some, but just one particular party we're chatting to. So we had to look into replacing this external dependence for something else. So now everything is smooth, fine, and passes all the sort of security checks. But yeah, kind of derailed the timelines that we had in mind. Now, however, I think we're at a stage where, yeah, with contracts being ready and this front end and back end work being finalized internally, we are now discussing how do we approach the public testnet release from a marketing standpoint, which kind of brings us to like the liquidity and ambassador programs. Naturally, in order for the public testnet to be successful, we need to have as many people using it as possible and kind of testing the capabilities of the system. Not only this, we obviously are coming into a market that has different offerings to people to stake their ETH, and in this sort of ocean of offerings and attention-grabbing headlines, we want to make sure that what we have built is recognized for its strengths, which it has, several, and this needs to be really communicated. And the public testnet is the best place where to, showcase this. So again, the first sort of marketing activities related to StakeWise V3 launch will be starting with the public testnet release, and we'll be gathering pace towards the actual mainnet deployment and thereafter. For the ambassador program, I know that this is something that hasn't been publicly discussed before. What we have been thinking is creating something that relies on software that's already kind of widely available, something like Galaxy or Getaway Protocol, where users receive credentials for performing certain on-chain and off-chain actions, and then creating an incentives program. Not when I say this, not necessarily related to SWISE, but just in general, something like a achievements program, where just by being a sort of core user of StakeWise and being supportive, like a core user naturally would be, you get certain perks, whether they be merchandise, whether they be special roles in the Discord, whether they be POAPs and NFTs. There's actually different levels to this, and once we have finalized our thinking on this, we will share the ideas with the community for sort of your feedback and approval. But yeah, this is naturally created to amplify whatever we release about StakeWise V3 further than we could just with our own efforts. And seeing how successful this can be based on other protocols' experiences, we cannot skip this part. So yeah, we're pretty excited to also be doing this. Finally, NodeWise software. So pretty significant part of StakeWise V3. We haven't talked about it much before, and I won't go into too much detail in this call about it, just because it deserves kind of its own introduction and can easily be spun off from StakeWise as a separate product that just solves the problem of entering solo staking for anyone that might be interested in running their own nodes. Not even necessarily for their own capital, but even for others. The good news is that, not only it's been sort of put together for testing already, it's already been kind of played around with internally, and now it's a matter of taking it to the public testnet to make sure that it's as polished as it can be before mainnet release. So again, this is something that will be coming out together with the public testnet. Probably stop here. It's been like a short monologue with the updates, and hopefully I've given some more color on what's been happening in the past 2 weeks, just based on these bullet points we shared before. If you guys have questions, whether related to this or something else, feel free to ask them. Happy to answer or shed more light on anything in particular.
Yeah, I would say for the Galaxy stuff, you should talk to I think his name is pronounced Shok. He's done a lot of research about it. I mean, I've encouraged him previously to go to the bureau and the forums. But I feel like he's got a lot of inside knowledge and on how to implement that solution.
Definitely. Yeah. I will make sure to chat with him or her. Yeah, not that, let's say, we haven't done our own research, but it's definitely great to compare notes and come up with something that works the best for our community. So thanks for the lead here. Right. So I guess there aren't any more questions at this time. In case you guys have them later down the line, please don't hesitate to ask them here or in the chat. What I wanted to share now is maybe just a few thoughts on how we see the existing market environment, and also how we're thinking about the go-to-market for StakeWise. Just how to put this, feel like within the context of conversations around decentralization and Lido and how to make sure that people switch, perhaps you would be, in a better position to understand how we approach V3 go-to-market if we just shared our thinking behind it. So the way that we see it is the broader staking market is split into roughly 3 or 4 different user segments. Perhaps the biggest not perhaps the biggest segment of users are in staking really without the liquid part. What makes them come to the liquid staking protocols is the simplicity and also the ability to stake any amount of ETH, so essentially fractionalized staking, but not necessarily DeFi opportunities because only something like 40% of all LST capital is used in DeFi, and the rest is just sitting in wallets. And when it is being used in DeFi, the majority is being used for leverage. So naturally, this makes us think that people, first and foremost, are looking for a staking solution, just plain and simple, kind of stake your ETH and get a yield for it. And this is what we believe StakeWise V3 solves really well. Whether this be through vaults that can give you a very sort of custom offering based on the type of vault that you choose, or be it with OSETH, where you kind of get the best of both worlds in terms of security and yield. So I think the first kind of focus for us when we do go to market with V3 is to focus on delivering a simple message, which is that StakeWise can offer staking on your own terms, and this is the place where you can get where you can stake your capital for the most yield. We think that for different users, there is a preference whether OSC would work better for them or vaults would work better for them. It will be our job to kind of channel different groups of people into one product or the other. But naturally we see that OSC has a very good setup for winning over stakers who are looking for a simple and safe solution with its slashing protection and yield capture. And when it comes to folks who are staking large amounts of capital, it's likely that they can find custom solutions that allow them to save and also give them more confidence in the staking setup by working with like certain vaults directly and choosing specific vaults to stake in. So this is really kind of the core understanding that offering simple and secure staking is the foundation for what StakeWise V3 should do. But obviously, the big innovation in what we do is access to liquid staking, right? So no matter how you stake, you should be able to have an LST to access DeFi. And so really, there is already a big market where people hold LSTs. What we will need to sort of drive home for them is that they can get a better offer. Like they can get better yield and the more control if they go down the down the route where they mint OSC from specific vaults, because of the fact that for one, they can find specific vaults with slashing insurance, DVT, etc. And second, because specific vaults will likely be able to offer better fees than standardized solutions like Rocket Pool or Lido. And just based off this fact, it's possible that instead of just sort of buying STETH off the market or staking into Lido, for example, and using leverage through STETH this way, it's better to pick a vault, whether arranging this with an operator beforehand or just choosing from one of the vaults in the marketplace. Mint OSC from there and access DeFi this way. So you save on fees, you have more security because of offerings like DVT or slapping protection. And really you preserve the same benefits that you get from DeFi. So this would be leverage or farming. Naturally, because at the very beginning, we will need to focus on the liquidity ecosystem first, and then the ability to borrow against your OSC will come second. It's going to be a little more tricky to attract people who mostly use LSDs for leverage, and so there's kind of a challenge in trying to get these guys into the protocol. So I think in the beginning we will want to emphasize just in general the ability to stake with simplicity and safety first, and yields come second. But over time, there is definitely scope for people to start choosing custom solutions over standardized ones, and this is where StakeWise V3 is perhaps best positioned of everyone to get adoption. I'll get to the question of timelines in a second. Yeah, and then the third one is obviously solo staking, where we are able to offer solo stakers and really community operators an ability to launch their own vaults and also stake their own capital in a liquid way with an LST to access DeFi opportunities. We will want to make sure that this opportunity is not missed by those who can utilize it. A couple of ways to do this. So first, we will want to make sure that by the time we go live, we have several community vaults that offer sort of good competition to commercial operators. The reason why this is important is because we don't really want to have same centralizing forces appear on the vault layer, that exists already on the node layer in general in Ethereum. And so with the ability to create permissionless vaults, we should have a couple of parties lined up ready to run them from the get-go, so that the people who come into the staking marketplace already have a choice of whether they want to go with the commercial operator or with the community operator. Now, of course, it's always going to come down to whether having someone in the community run nodes for you versus a commercial operator is better or worse. And this is where we actually think that basically the community will come in. Sorry, someone is not muted. Will be able to come in and make sure that they promote their own vaults, so that we do not necessarily need to see this competition emerge, because stakers pick community vaults based on like their own promotion efforts rather than just direct comparison in the marketplace page. So we will want to make sure that their sort of marketing efforts are bolstered with some sort of support from StakeWise. There are a couple of ideas for how to do this, but yeah, long story short is that a sort of significant growth vector that we want to explore is just giving people the tools to launch their own kind of staking businesses and promote them to monetize their node running experience and expertise, and consequently also help StakeWise grow. So that's really kind of the third pillar. And solo stakers who kind of migrate their solo validator from their existing setup into their own vault will have an opportunity to signal strongly to the community that they have skin in the game as well. So from that perspective, we think that the market the market forces will do their job properly. So that's just in general how we're thinking about the like the strengths and um, how they play into the current market structure. Obviously, what I've described as kind of the sort of high level understanding. We try to drill down um, just various data, whether this be on chain or just kind of sentiment analysis, to understand what are our best chances at getting more ETH under the belt one way or another once we launch, and what is the best go-to-market strategy. And so, having identified these different routes, we will be focusing on them with various initiatives. But more broadly, I think our goal will be to make sure that people understand that StakeWise V3 is very flexible and can cater to most of the use cases you can think of for either running a staking operation or staking your ETH. And hopefully these three different directions will have something in common, and that would be precisely this narrative that whatever you can think of, you can do this with the tools that we have developed. So that's really the thinking. I'll pause here just to give myself a little bit of briefing time because again, been a monologue, but I've also seen the question from Mike here in the chat about the testnet time. So I'm going to just pause for like 20 seconds and if anyone else has questions, like you can think of them now. Okay, so the timeline for public testnet and mainnet. So on one hand, I totally get why having these kinds of timelines out in public is important. My concern is that we have signaled a certain timeline that is based on milestones back in early April. And I think then we again kind of teased that public testnet is around the corner, etc., and didn't really stick to the milestone approach. Again, I think I would love to bring this back and focus on that. Just based on the different milestones, where we are in the timeline is we are very close to launching the public testnet, just based on all the components that we needed to launch it finally kind of falling into place. So I think without giving a specific date, it's fair to say we are closer than ever to releasing this because all the different parts of it are now either complete or nearly complete. Doesn't seem like anything is going to kind of steer us away from the route like it did in the past week with eliminating this external dependency that had a vulnerability. So yeah, ideally ideally we go to public testnet very soon. We will also be finalizing the development of custom stuff over June, like over the month of June. When I say custom stuff, this is mostly on the vault side. So creating custom vaults that some of our partners have requested that, they would like to see. And thereafter, we will be starting the audits. Like I mentioned today, I'm planning to actually lock the dates in for the audit. We will want to have flexibility with these when we sign stuff with the auditing companies. But at least just the initial understanding is that for audits to start, would probably want to wait until the last week of June. And from there, you typically know how long it takes for an audit to be completed. It's roughly 3 to 4 weeks, and then some time to introduce changes to the product, if anything is discovered. So, if everything goes smooth, just based on these timelines, the launch date for mainnet could be in July. But again, just would like to emphasize that it's mostly the milestones-based approach that we want to follow. And as much as I would love to have a concrete date in mind, it's best to follow the milestones rather than precise dates. So just based on what I told you, hopefully, you can come up with an estimate yourself as well. My kind of, best estimate at this time is probably for the sort of mid to end July. Okay, I'm seeing a question on the scoring model. So I think this is one of the bigger parts for the StakeWise V3 setup. And this is something that can be extensively tested during the public testnet. We will share the details for how it works in the beginning. We will have an opportunity to tweak it as a community based on the results we get from the public testnet. So the best we can do now is come up with documentation and the updated scope for StakeWise V3, which is precisely what the plan is for the time before the public testnet release. And so that when we go live with that, you will have an opportunity to look at the sort of hard data that your node is producing. You will have the ability to look into how we interpret that and comment. And then together we will have a good understanding of whether this works or not, and what's what are the changes that need to be made in the scoring model before we go live with it on mainnet. So this is all very much sort of in progress, and for scoring, you will have and the ability to check it on public testnet, and also contribute if you contribute your thoughts towards development if you have any sort of suggestions or feedback. The easiest way to set up a validator with V3 is NodeWise. I'm just reading the questions in the chat now. So NodeWise is supposed to be your kind of validator setup and monitoring wizard. So you can think of launching a torrent client in order to, I don't know, download or upload something. And you can think of, how simple it is to operate it and make sure that it's actually like connected to the network and doing all the things that it should be. Node.wise is supposed to be that, but for validators. And ideally, you won't need anything. You won't need to know anything about Bash terminal or, databases. It should just work out of the box. So,
Oh, that's interesting. Like, what about infrastructure as well? Like, I think you mentioned all nodes was potential, like managed hosted all nodes validator or something like that.
um, so
Is this like a
Node.wise is
managed?
supposed to,
Yeah.
no, it's supposed to be a piece of software that you download and install on any type of machine, and provided it meets the system requirements for running Ethereum nodes, you should really be good to go. So yeah, what we're aiming to do here is making solo staking or running nodes and validators in general as smooth and simple as possible. And yeah, we will see in the testnet whether, how close we are to that seamless mark.
Okay.
Okay, so utility of SWISE in V3, great question. The team has its kind of initial thoughts and suggestions, which we will bring to the table in the next few weeks. But ultimately, we would want to have a collective decision on this, knowing that, it's pretty impactful one for the fate of the StakeWise DAO as well as the StakeWise V3 platform. Personally, my take on the tokenomics and how SWISE should be utilized is still that some sort of a insurance use case is one of the biggest possibilities here. I know that people have done certain calculations for, what would be the yield on staking your SWISE in case, this and this happens. And how to put this, while in theory, I do agree with the calculations. In practice, I think the DAO and also just in general, people's behavior is going to influence how this works. And so I'm looking forward to having this sort of discussion in the open on the forum and showing how we think about it. Another sort of use case for SWISE in V3 is probably sort of the desire to align stakers with the protocol, and give those who are sort of active contributors to it a bigger sort of share of the voting power. So this is likely, it's possible to do this either through the ambassador program, or you can call it the loyalty program, that can unlock this for people. But also it can be used to make staking with StakeWise V3 more attractive, in the same way that, for example, rocket pool operators are required to lock in RPL in order to align incentives with, between them and the protocol. I think it's possible that we create a mechanism where something can, not necessarily must, but can be locked in exchange for a certain reward to align incentives better. And yeah, I personally have a couple of ideas around this. Most of them, in my opinion, help the protocol grow rather than only, leading to just blind issuance of new tokens. So very happy to share these things. They're in my to-do, they're in our pipeline. So it's only basically a matter of time that we come to a decision on this together. First, we need to sort of write it up and publish it, and then we're good to decide on it and implement it. In terms of whether the insurance model is an idea or already a concept, so this is it's possible that it's developed before we go live, or shortly after we go live. But I would say that in circumstances where we cannot add this into the scope for the final audits, I think it's better to audit this separately and at a later time. So it's possible that it's aligned with V3, again, provided we agree on this as a collective, as a DAO. But it's not necessary that this will be happening just alongside the launch. Yeah, so here's a question. So in V3, could someone trade an insurance position as is? For example, in an NFT, not all insurances are the same. It would also be possible to create bundles to diversify risk. So I really like this idea. I think eventually, if we do go with the insurance approach, it makes sense to go in this direction as well, especially if we want to enable an efficient market for slashing insurance. But I don't think that it makes sense to introduce this kind of functionality from the beginning, just based on the fact that insurance alone is pretty involved, and creating tradable positions is likely a significant technical lift without, potentially without much sort of traction in terms of product usage. So first, my thoughts would be that we would need to test, the reception of the insurance model itself, and if it is successful, think about the extension of it in terms of, tradable positions. Hopefully, this answers the question. Next question we have in the chat. So StakeWise will make money by getting a small percentage of commission when minting OSETH. That's correct, at least in the existing scope. How much will this be approximately, and other ways how StakeWise is going to make money? So I'm going to start with the latter question. There are ways in which StakeWise can make money outside of just the commission from OSETH. The way that we want to design, or rather not want to design, the way that we designed the peg stability sort of module allows StakeWise DAO to actually collect the discount on OSETH in case it ever goes below peg, which can be a significant source of income in case this ever happens. It kind of turns a protocol's sort of bad times into good times, just in terms of monetary rewards. I think typically depegging events occur during times of market volatility, when sentiment drives market prices more than fundamentals do. And this is the perfect time to actually make money, just broadly for any market participant. And StakeWise protocol being the sort of perhaps the first party in line of interested, like in line of parties interested in StakeWise's success and confident in StakeWise's tech, is best positioned to sort of utilize this discount to its advantage. So buy when others are fearful in order to restore the peg and also pocket the discount. So that's another way to make money. Longer term, I think it makes sense for us to think about charging a small commission on Vault, no matter whether OSC has been minted from them or not. Kind of like Uniswap can toggle a fee for its DAO from any liquidity pool, but so far has opted not to. I think we should follow the same approach. If the DAO sort of disagrees, we can discuss this, but just internally within the team, we decided not to implement this sort of fee switch for the time being because we want as much adoption as possible without sort of second guessing and second thinking. From the partner side, it's always possible to introduce this later. And so, if we get into a position where we can monetize this effectively, we will introduce this, I think, as a DAO. It just makes sense that we do this. But for the time being, yeah, it's mostly just the peg stability and commissions from OSC that are going to flow into the treasury. Okay, hopefully this answers the question. And then a question from Cody, a plan.
Yeah, thank you. Very clear. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Glad to hear that. So a plan for Vault operators to opt into a smoothing pool for execution layer rewards from block proposals. Yes, that is absolutely the case. There is a smoothing pool that any Vault can join for the sharing of execution layer rewards. And sort of anticipating the next question, I think that we have a pretty solid solution that is designed to prevent the stealing of MEV from this smoothing pool. So you will learn, the details about how it works in like once you read the documentation and take a look at the contracts. But long story short, whatever a vault is supposed to get from a smoothing pool is not actually received by it until it contributes something to the smoothing pool. So in case you steal MEV, you actually also don't get any contributions from it either. And this kind of incentivizes you to either use the smoothing pool properly or not use it at all. In case you use it properly, and let's say for a while you haven't been getting any proposals, but you have been receiving rewards from the smoothing pool. But like even though you don't physically receive them, they're kind of counted as your vault income. In case you steal MEV at some point and you get you need to forfeit whatever you should have accumulated. This is just going to reflect in your vault sort of owned balance of stake thief. So down the line, there is an incentive to not steal anything because otherwise you're just not going to receive anything either. So that's basically the logic of how smoothing pool works and whether it exists. Hope it's clear. Okay, so we have another question about the custom work on the Vault side that is planned for June. So when I say custom work on the Vaults, what I mean is certain functionality that is not currently included into factory contracts that is needed to execute certain things. So one of these things is the migration of StakeWise V2 to StakeWise V3, for example. So the existing StakeWise pool is going to be sort of the OG vault in StakeWise V3. And so since it's not being started from scratch, but rather needs to, already somehow exist, within this framework, there is custom functionality that needs to be built for the migration. That's one. Second type of these custom vaults is have to do with certain considerations from a regulatory perspective. So interestingly, vaults seem to be a powerful solution, but only, how to put this, only in certain circumstances they can be utilized to their full extent, just from a regulatory perspective. So in order to make sure that taking advantage of these powerful features is not hindered by being in breach of certain rules, we need to give Vault deployers the ability to change something like for their own needs, the needs of their own kind of jurisdiction. And so this creates additional things that we need to build for the existing Vault functionality that is going to be a custom Vault in the end. And yeah, finally, it's also kind of the foundation for vaults for other networks. So that also kind of is partially covered. Hope that's the answer you were looking for.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, great. So yeah, we're nearly at the time. So we probably have enough time for just another question, one last one, in case someone still has them. Okay. Well, it doesn't seem like there are any more questions, but I think we went over plenty in this session. Thank you for those. Hopefully, it was clear not only to the people that have asked the questions, but also those who listened to the answers. That certain things work. Yeah, what am I saying? Hopefully, just the answers were clear to everyone, and even to those who are not, queued up on some specific parts that made them ask the question. So, yeah, thank you all for coming to listen to the office hours. We will gather again in 2 weeks. I think it makes sense to have these conversations on Thursdays rather than Wednesdays, actually, because it seems like we get more participants this time around. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but we'll test this theory next time. But yeah, if in the meantime you get more questions about StakeWise V3 or anything else StakeWise related, please don't hesitate to just send these questions to us in any of the Discord channels. And yeah, we will always answer them and we'll keep you updated on our progress. That's it for today. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. And yeah, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Thanks, everyone.
Have a nice evening, guys.